Okay, Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Today is Chaf Gimel Nisan Isru Chag, the 8th day of the Omer. We are going to learn Daf Ches. We left off yesterday on Daf Zayin Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom of the Amud, the beginning of the wide lines, the second word of the line, Im. All right. So now we're quoting from the Mishnah. The Mishnah was explaining the process of after they bring the Sotah to the Beis Hamikdash. And we said that the Bezdin Hagadol would try to intimidate her to get her to admit that she was guilty, in order that we shouldn't have to make her drink the water, that if she's guilty, she would die from it, and that we shouldn't have to erase the Eibishter's great name into the bitter waters. And the Mishnah said that if she admits, if she admits that she was defiled, so the Mishnah said that Sheveres Ksubasa, she gives a receipt to her husband that he does not have to pay her the Ksuba money. The Ksuba, just in very short, is a enactment by the Chachamim that they said that in order that it shouldn't be kala be'inav leitzia, shalehe kala be'inav leitzia, that it shouldn't be so easy for men to divorce their wives, right? Because mina Torah, these days it's already different because of the cherem de Rabbeinu Gershom, but midai raisa, the divorce was only the husband's, decision, right? It didn't have to be given with the consent of the wife. These days already, the Rabbeinu Gershom was masakin that you're not allowed to divorce without the wife's consent, but midai raisa, in the times of the Chachamim, it was only the husband's decision. So in order that men shouldn't easily give their wives a get, the Chachamim were masakin a ksuba, that if you're marrying a woman for the first time, she gets 200 zuz, and if it's a woman who's an almana that she was already married before, she gets 100 zuz, and all those the details are all explained over there in Maseches Ksubis. Now, a ksuba is just like any other document of a loan, meaning just like by a loan, a person Reuven lends Shimon $100. So Shimon gives Reuven this shtar. They write a shtar, and Reuven takes the shtar that says that Shimon owes me $100, and then he uses that as proof that Shimon owes him $100. So after Shimon pays him back the $100, so the document has to be destroyed, and we're going to discuss maybe some of the ways that we get rid of the document, that we show that that this debt is already paid, but the document is the proof that the guy owes the money. So the same thing is with the ksuba. Right when they get married, the woman gets a ksuba. If the husband dies, or if the woman gets divorced, so the woman brings this document to Bezdin, and the Bezdin has to take from the husband's property and give her that amount of money. We're going to see some of the details. So now we say that by a Sotah, so she gives a receipt for the ksuba, that she doesn't get the ksuba money. So now Shmat Mino, says the Gemara, we learn from here that Kais Vin Shaver, that we write receipts. So the Gemara is referencing a machlekes Tanoim and a Mishnah in Bava Basra, Daf Kuf Ayin Amud Beis. Over there, we're talking about a regular loan where Reuven lends Shimon $100. Then, so they write a document, and Reuven has this document that Shimon owes him $100. Then Shimon, gets some money, and he pays Reuven $50. So he doesn't pay him the entire loan. He pays him back for half of the loan. So over there we have machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda says that what you do is you rip up the original document. You rip up the document that said that he owes him $100. And the Bezdin writes a new document that now Shimon owes Reuven $50. Okay. Rabbi Yossi says that no, that's not a good solution, because the way a loan works, most loans, so you have the loan is mishabed the guy's property, which means that his properties now are leaned to the loan, which means that if Reuven lends Shimon $100 on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and then a guy comes and buys Reuven's house from him on Beis Nisan, so Shimon, so he buys Shimon's house on Beis Nisan. And now Shimon's not able to pay back the loan, so Reuven is able to come and get his payment back from Shimon's properties. The properties are liened to the loan. He takes the properties away instead of the loan that he owes. So Rabbi Yossi says to Rabbi Yehuda, if you're going to say that you rip up the original document was on Aleph Nisan. The second document, when Shimon paid back the money, let's say that was on Chaf Gimel Nisan, right? He paid back half of the money. So now you have a new document that says that Shimon owes Reuven $50, and it says the document is dated Chaf Gimel Nisan. What happens if there was a buyer that bought the guy's house in between Rosh Chodesh Nisan and Chaf Gimel Nisan? A guy bought the house on Beis Nisan. So if if you have the document dated Aleph Nisan, so now the lender Reuven is able to come take away the property of the buyer. He's able to take back the buyer's property. Then Shimon's going to have to owe the money to the third guy, to the buyer, right? That's how a lien works. But for now, Reuven's going to be able to get his loan back from the property of Shimon that was bought. However, if the document's dated Chav Gimel Nisan, if Shimon sold a house before he took the loan, then the property is not lien to the loan because it already didn't belong to him by the time of the loan. So Rabbi Yossi says to Rabbi Yehuda that if you're going to say that you write a new document, so then you're making it's a disadvantage to the lender, to Reuven, because now he loses the house that he would have had lien to him. So Rabbi Yossi says, don't do that. What you do is you write a shover, you write a receipt that you have the original document that says Aleph Nisan, but you give a receipt to the loiva, to Shimon, that says that on Chav Gimel Nisan I paid back $50. So now, when Reuven is going to come to Shimon and say, you owe me $100, Shimon's going to say that's not true. He's going to pull out and based in his receipt that he paid back $50. So now you have two documents. You have the original chayv document, and then you have the shoivar, this receipt that Shimon's able to whip out and say, I already paid you $50. Hilda says to Rabbi Yossi, if you're going to do that, now you have another document to guard. And the loiva the Shimon is now going to need to keep his document that says that he paid back $50. And if he loses that document, then when Reuven takes him to court, you have the original document that says that he owes him $100. And what's going to end up happening is that if Shimon lost the second document, this shoivar, so now we're going to force Shimon to pay him back $100, which is not good, right? He says now Shimon has to guard his the lashon of the Mishnah is that now he has to guard his document from the mice. Right, so you have this machlekes, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, whether you read a shovar or not. Rabbi Yehuda says that a shovar is not good because now once you have another document that you need to guard, it's going to make it more difficult for the loiva, for the borrower, to prove that he already paid back half of the money. And Rabbi Yossi says no. If you don't write a shovar, then it's going to be a loss for the original, for the lender, because he's going to lose his lien on the property. That's the machlekes in Bava Basra. So now the Gemara says that since our Mishnah said that the woman writes a shover for her ksuba, she writes a receipt for the ksuba that she already that the ksuba is paid, meaning that she doesn't get the ksuba. It's not paid, but that the ksuba obligation is no longer in effect. So we can see from here, we could prove that our Mishnah is a stam Mishnah. So Rebbe is writing, unequivocally, that you write a shover, that you write a receipt. Problem is that elsewhere in Mishnayos we have a machlekes, and it's not good when you have a machlekes in one place to have another place where it just brings one opinion, right? Usually we try to avoid that we try to be consistent, that if there's a machlekes over there should be a machlekes over here. So if Rebbe was soisim that he just wrote that you write a shaver over here, so we could prove from here that you do write a shaver to prove that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. So Amar Abaye, so Abaye said no. Tni mikaras, you have to amend our Mishnah and write that it said and the Mishnah should read that the woman rips up her ksuba, that now there's no more ksuba. And now you don't have this problem with the machlekes Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar Rava says to Abaye, hold on, you can't just change the word of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said the word sheveres, that she writes a receipt. So Elamar Rava, so Rava says that our Mishnah is obviously b'makim she'en kaisvin ksuba askinan. Our Mishnah has to be talking about a case where it was a place where they didn't write ksubas. There was places that the people wouldn't write a ksuba, and the marriage. If the marriage were terminated with either a divorce or with the husband dying, so the woman would still be able to collect the money. Because of the Chachamim made it a across the board obligation that a husband, when he gets married, has to pay this amount of money, X amount of money to his wife, no matter if there's a ksuba or not. And that's the halacha. If the woman lost her ksuba, she still gets the money, right? Because it's a t'nai from the Chachamim on every single marriage. So in places that they wouldn't write a ksuba, there were places that they wouldn't write a ksuba. The woman, when the marriage were terminated, she would go and collect her money without showing a ksuba. It just makes life easier. You don't have this other document that you have to worry about. And what would they do? So when if her husband died, she would bring the edim, she would bring witnesses that her husband's dead. Or if they got divorced, the woman would bring her get, she would bring her divorce document and say, this is my get, pay me back. So our Mishnah is talking about a place where they wouldn't write a ksuba. So the woman doesn't have a ksuba, so there's no other choice. In the case of a Sotah, there's no divorce and there's no death. So the termination of the marriage was because of the problem of Sotah, because she became a Sotah. So in this case, she has no other choice but to write a shayva. But in a regular case, in a regular case where they do write a ksuba, so there, taka, you would rip up the ksuba, and that would be that. But our Mishnah is specifically talking about a case of a place where they didn't write a ksuba. Okay, continuing on. Says the Gemara, quoting from the Mishnah, if she insists that she was pure, that she did not cheat on her husband, so Mailan Oisa Lashari Mizrach, they bring her to the eastern gate of the Beis Hamikdash, And the Gemara asks, so you have to bring her there. Hasam Kaima, that's where she is. You go to the Beis Din Agadol in Yerushalayim, she's already in the Beis Hamikdash. Right? So what are you talking about that they have to bring her to the eastern gate of the Beis Hamikdash? She's in the Beis Hamikdash, she's already there. So says the Gemara, the maskina lo, machtina lo, kidei liyaga. What they would do is that they would have kohanim that would walk her up and down and walk her all around and make sure she's getting her steps in order to get her to tire her out, so that she'll be fed up with the whole process and she'll admit, okay, I cheated on my husband. That's it, right? We don't want her to be stubborn and keep proclaiming her innocence if she's taka guilty. So we try to tire her out to get her fed up with the whole process. So they would walk her up and down. Since they walked her down, they would bring her back to the Shara Mizrach, to the eastern gate, and bring her to the Shara Nikanor, as we're going to see in a minute. So the Tanya of Shimon ben Elazar, Reb Shimon ben Elazar says in a Braisa, in a Tosefta, in Sanhedrin, that Bezdin Masina Seidem Makom L'Makom Kadeshi Titar Taitan Aleim the Yachzer Bahen, not about the Sotah, but about witnesses in capital cases. That also by witnesses in a capital case, it's a very serious thing. You have a person's life on the line. So the Bezdin would make the Edom, the witnesses, they would walk them around all over the place, up and down, in order to tire them out, so that if they're lying, they'll realize that it's not worth it for them to lie to get this guy killed, and they would just admit that they were lying, and that would be over with. So they would tire them out of there. So too by Sotah, we want her to admit something, so we tire her. Okay, next. We said that by Shar Nikanor, this gate that's in between the Ezras Nashim and the Ezras Yisrael, right, in between the two sections of the Beis Hamikdash. If you look at a bird's eye view of the Beis Hamikdash, they have maps. I should have brought one. You have on the eastern side, you have the Ezras Nashim, which is where the women weren't allowed to go past the Ezras Nashim. In the middle, you have the Shar Nikanor with the 15 steps leading up to the Shar Nikanor, where the Levium would sing the 15 Shir Amalises on Sukkot. And past that, you have the Ezras Yisrael. 11 Amas later, you have the Ezras HaKoyanim, which is where the Koyanim would do their avodah. You have the Mizbeach over there, the Kiyar, and then you have the big building with the Heichel, with the Kodesh, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Right, everyone's familiar with the map of the Beis Hamikdash. So right in the middle, smack in the middle, you have this Shar Nikanor. And that's where they would give the Sotas to drink the waters. And then we said also that's where they would do the process for the Mitzayra and for a woman that gave birth. Okay, so now, Bishlama Sotos, we know that a Sotah has to be over there by Shar Nikanor. The Chesivit says in the pasuk in the Parsha Sotah that Behemet HaKohen has to Isha Lefnei Hashem, that the Kohen has to stand the woman up in front of Hashem, which means in front of the Azara facing the Kodesh, facing the Beis Hamikdash. So it has to be by the Shar Nikanor, right? The closest she's able to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Mitzayra and Nami. Also, we know that a Mitzayra, when the Mitzayra on the guy who got Saras, there's a whole process of him becoming pure from his Saras after he was outside the camp, right? And the Kohen came and saw, and he had to see if the Saras got bigger, if it got smaller. At a certain point, the Kohen sees that the Saras became pure, that he's pure now. So he waits. He shaves all of his hair. He waits 7 days. He goes to mikvah, and then on the 8th day, he shaves all of his hair again, and he brings karbanis in the Beis Hamikdash. And over there, you had a whole process where you had to shech the karban and take from the blood and put it on the guy's right thumb and on his big toe of his right foot, and he would pour oil and he would put the oil on the Mitzayra's head. Right, a whole process, and this had to happen also right by the Shar Nikanor, the Chesiv, and we know that it says in the Torah on Parshas Mitzayra, the Behemet HaKohen HaMetayar V'Gomer, that the Kohen has to stand up the Mitzayra over there in front of Hashem, which means by the Shar Nikanor. Eli Ledes, however, by a woman who gave birth, my time. Well, why does she need to be by the Shar Nikanor? The Mishnah said that the woman that gave birth, she needs to bring karbanos. Right, by a woman who gave birth to a boy brings karbanos at the end of 40 days. By a girl, she brings karbanos at the end of 80 days. She has to bring a chatas and a noila. And how do we know that it has to be by the Shar Nikanor? So if you're going to tell me that the reason is because she's bringing karbanos, and every person has to stand by their karban. The halacha is that you need to stand by when you're bringing your karban, like it says in the pasuk. We say it every day. Tishmeru lahakriv b'mayadei, that you need a guard, you need to be standing guard by when your karban is being brought. When a person brings a karban, he stands in the Beis Hamikdash watching his karban being brought. So if you're going to say that the reason why you need to have the Yeledes by the Shar Nikanor is because she has to be standing by her karban, the closest she can get is by the Shar Nikanor. So then imkein why only Yeledes? There's other people that have to bring karbanos, like a zav and a zava. They're also impure. They're not able to go into the Ezras Yisrael. They're not able to go past the Shar Nikanor. So the Mishnah should have mentioned also that they have to stand by the Shar Nikanor to watch their karban being brought. So it says the Gemara, true. The reason why the Yeledes has to stand over there is because she it has to watch her carbon being brought. She can't go past the Ezras. Past the Ezras Nashim into the Ezras Yisrael. So the closest she can stand is by the Sha'ar Nikanor. And so too, a Zav and a Zava, which they're also not able to go past, which is the certain bodily tumas. A Zav is some sick kind of semen that leaves a man's body three days in a row. A Zava is a woman that's bleeding from her uterus, not in the normal time of Nida. She's there's the 7 days of Nida, and then for 11 days later, if she sees blood, then she becomes a Zava, and if she sees it 3 days in a row, then she's a Zava Gdela, and she has to bring karbanis at the end of her purification process. So they're also not allowed to go past the Ezras Nashim. So they also have to stand by the Sha'ar Nikanor for the same reason. And our Mishnah was trying to give you all the cases. It didn't have to say each one separately. If you know the reason why the Yelada sets a standard, which is because she has to be standing by her carbon, so you deduce from there that also the Zav and the Zava also stand over there, and the Mishnah doesn't have to say each and every case. Good. We learned in a Braisa, the Chachamim taught that in mashkin shtei soitos ka'achas. You can't give two soitos to drink the water together. You don't do the process of Sotah with two women together at one time. Why? The reason is because she shouldn't get sort of haughty. It's not really haughty. She shouldn't be too confident, right? She shouldn't feel stuck up in the presence of another woman that they're both denying that they cheated on their husband, so they're going to give chizuk to each other. They're strengthening each other's claims, and she sees that her friend over here, the other Sotah, is not giving in, so she's also not going to give in, right? They both they get their stubbornness from each other, right? So therefore, you shouldn't do two at a time because of that. Rabbi Yehuda says, that's not the reason why you can't do two Sotas together. There's a different reason. Amar Kra, it's because the pasuk says in Parsha Sotah that Oisa, that the kohen stands her up, that he does it for her, and Oisa is in Lashon Yachid, in singular, so Levada, you have to do the process for her alone. So now the Tanakama Haksiv Oisa, so now the Gemara wants to know why the Tanakama, the first opinion, didn't bring the reason why you can't give two Sotas together from the reason of Rabbi Yehuda that it says in the Torah Oisa. It says the Gemara, the Tanakama Rab Shimon, the first Tana in our Braisa is Rab Shimon. Rabbi Shimon is the Darish time of the Kra. Rabbi Shimon always, whenever there's a mitzvah in the Torah, he always explains the reasoning for it. And Umatam Kamar, he was explaining why does the Torah say that Oisa. He agrees that the Torah Taka says Oisa, that it's one. However, why does the Torah say Oisa? Because Levada, why does it have to be alone? That you shouldn't get chizuk from the other side. So just for a second, Rabbi Shimon Darish time of the Kra, the source for this is a pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim, where it says in the Torah, it's either Mishpatim or Kiseitze, I don't remember, that you can't take a mashka and you can't take a guarantee for a loan from an almana, from a widow. Right? So we know the halacha is that whenever you take a loan from someone, you take the security. However, by an almana, the Torah says you're not allowed to take it from an almana, from a widow. So Reb Shimon says, one second, why does the Torah telling me that I can't take that you can't take this guarantee from a widow? So says Reb Shimon, because the Torah says that whenever you take a loan, whenever you take a security for a loan of mashka, you always have to give it back to the owner of the mashka and to the lender whenever they need it. And if you're going to take something from an almana and she's poor, she doesn't have a lot of money, right? Almanas, they didn't have a husband to support them, so she's going to be poor, and you're going to need to give it back to her every single night. You're going to need to give the security back to her every night, and you're going to frequent her house by giving back the security to her. And Shimon says that the Torah is worried that people are going to start becoming suspicious. This guy keeps on going to this almana's house every night. There's probably something inappropriate going on over there. And in order not to make a shame ra for the almana, in order not to make a bad name for this almana, so the Torah says you're not allowed to take a security from an almana. So Shimon says, one second. The only reason why the Torah says that you can't take a security from an almana is because of this bad name that she's going to have. So what happens if the almana is rich? If the almana is very rich, so there, she's not going to need the security back every night. She has other pillows and blankets that she has, right? The security that you're taking, let's say the guy's taking a pillow, she doesn't need it back every night. She has another pillow. So it says Reb Shimon that in the case of an almana, who's rich, you are allowed to take his security, right? So he says, Reb Shimon is Darish time of the Kra. He looks at a mitzvah and he says, what's the reasoning why Hashem said this mitzvah? And when you understand the reason, so you're able to apply it in different cases. That not in every case does this mitzvah of leisach beged almana apply, because if the almana is rich, this mitzvah wouldn't apply. So the same thing over here, right? Why does the Torah say that you can only be mashka one Sotah, that you can only give one Sotah to drink at a time? Because we're going to see the nafkamina in a second. So ask the Gemara, my benayu. Bottom line, Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, they both say the same thing. Bottom line, you're not able to give two Sotas to drink at one time. Reb Shimon says that the reason is because Rabbi Yehuda says no, that it's a gzeres hakasa. The Torah says that you can't give two at a time. So my benayu, what's the difference between the two opinions? Why do they argue? So ike benayu, there's a case where you have a difference where it's roiseses. If you have one of the saitas is trembling, she's very scared, she's terrified. So if you have two saitas at one time and one of them is terrified, right? So there, the other saita B, is not going to be getting chizuk from saita A, who's terrified. She's trembling the whole time. She's vomiting and then she's out of her because she's very scared of these bitter waters. Right? If she's trembling and the other saita is watching her, she's not going to get chizuk from that. She's fakar. She's gonna get discouraged from it, right? So in that case, Reb Shimon would say that you could give two saitas at a time, right? That if she's a recesses, if she's trembling, good. That if she's trembling, then you're able to give two saitas at one time. Rabbi Yehuda would say no. The Torah says that it has to be one, and you can only do one, even if the other one's recesses, right? He doesn't care about the reasoning that they're going to get chizuk from the other. The Torah says one, so you only do one. Good. So now says the Gemara, "Recesses be mashkin." Do we still give two saitas even if one of them is trembling, even according to Reb Shimon? We learned this in Psachim Chevra about saying two brachas on one cup of wine. You can't make mitzvahs into bundles. We don't do two mitzvahs at once. And over there we learned. But the reason is because it looks like Rashi says it looks like a guy has a burden on him and he's trying to get rid of the burden quickly. So he's killing two birds with one stone. He doesn't cherish the mitzvah. So if you do two saitas at one time, you're killing two birds with one stone. It shows that you're not cherishing the mitzvah, right? And the Tanan, we learned in the Tanya, we learned in Brisa that mashkin shtei saitas ka'achas. You don't give two saitas to drink the waters at once. You don't do the purification for two mitzvahs at once. You don't do the process once. The Torah says that when a man has an eved ivri, a Jewish slave, so he only works for 6 years. After 6 years, he has to go free. However, if the eved says that he doesn't want to go free, he wants to stay with the master. He loves the master. He loves working in his house. So the Torah says that you take the master takes the slave. He knocks his ear into the door. He nails his ear to the doorpost, and then he becomes a eved nirtza. He's called the nirtza, and he has to serve him all the way till yom. Right? He keeps him till yom, and he can't go free. Right? So that's the mitzvah of hartzah. And over there also the Torah says you can't do two ceremonies of ritzia, of knocking these two slaves' ear into the wall. You can't do it at once. By the mitzvah of Egla Arufa, we're going to learn later in Sotah a whole parak dedicated to Egla Arufa, the last parak of Sotah, which is that if you find a dead body in between two cities, or you find a dead body, outside a city, so the Bezdin Hagadol comes and they measure which city is the closest, and that city they bring a young calf and they decapitate the calf in a river, and they make a whole ceremony over there, and the Kohanim, they say psukim over there. And that's a process in order to atone this city, which was the closest to this dead body, to atone them for the sin of having this guy that died in the middle of the right. How is the city able to stand by when this guy is dying in the field around? So when you have the mitzvah of Egla Rufa, if you have two dead bodies next to one city, so you need to bring two Egla Rufa. So you don't do two Egla Rufas at one time. Why? You can't make mitzvahs into bundles. It looks like it's a burden. So even in a case of recesses, how could you say? So our whole vart is that the difference between Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda is in a case of recesses, where one of them is very scared. So there, Reb Shimon would say you could do two at one time, but you still have this problem of chavilas. So Abai says Vitem Rav Kana. Some say it was Rav Kana. Leikashya, it's not a question. When do you say mitzvahs chavilas and mitzvahs chavilas that you can't do two at a time because it looks like a bundle? If it's one kohen standing there doing two saitas, knocking them out one after the other, there it looks like it's a burden. However, if it's two different kohenim, right? So then it's perfect. It's two different people doing two different mitzvahs, and it's all wonderful. So in that case, if you have two different kohenim, Rabbi Yehuda would say that Rabbi Shimon would say. Reb Shimon would say B'chlal that if it's Reiseses, you can do two at a time, and there's no problem of Liba Gaspa. And Rabbi Yehuda would say no, you can't do two at a time. And now I'm thinking it could be Rabbi Yehuda would say that if it's two different kohanim, you don't have the din of Isa. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll look it up. I'll say tomorrow. Rabbi Yehuda who says that the issue is a Gzeres HaKasav. Doesn't make a difference if it's one kohen or two kohanim. I'm not sure. I'll look it up. Okay, good. Continues the Gemara. The Mishnah said that the Kohen holds onto her clothing and he rips the clothing. So Tan Rabbanan learned the Chachamim in Avraiso, Paras Reisha Isha. The Kohen has to uncover the woman's hair. So Ein Li Ela Rosha. That pasuk tells you that he has to uncover the hair. So Gufa Minayin, how do you know that he also uncovers her body? Like we said, that you rip the clothing until you reveal her heart. So Talmud Lemar says the pasuk Ha Isha, the woman. The Torah could have said Uparas Reisha, that you uncover her head. But it says you uncover the head of the woman. This extra word Ha Isha teaches me also her body you uncover. So Imkain Mal Talmud Lemar Uparas Reisha. So now, if you're telling me that this pasuk is coming to teach you that the kohen uncovers her body, so what's the uncovering her hair have to do? You uncover her body, so of course her hair is uncovered. So malamed, those words now teach you that the kohen has to unbraid her hair if it was made in braids. Good. Next, Rabbi Yehuda says that if her heart will look nice, if her chest look nice, so there you don't uncover her chest because it's unsneezed. So now says the Gemara, remember that Rabbi Yehuda choyesh the hirhura v'rabbanan lo choyeshi. The Chachamim said that even if her chest is nice, you still uncover her heart. Rabbi Yehuda said that you don't. So now it seems from here that our Mishnah holds that Rabbi Yehuda says that Rabbi Yehuda is worried for hirhur, for people thinking these inappropriate thoughts when they see a woman, when they see a woman uncovered, and the Chachamim are not worried about that. However, we know the opposite from the Mishnah and Sanhedrin. The Tanya we learned in the Brayso Sanhedrin that over here the Brayso is talking about skila in a case where there's the capital punishment of stoning. So they would take the person the person who's chayav skila, they would push him or her down this 2-story building, and then the Edom would come and throw stones, right, and they would die in that way. So when the person got skila, so says the Brayso that by a man you cover him with one little garment in front of him, you cover up his private part, and a woman you cover her from the front and from the back, her private parts. Why? Because by a woman you're able to see the private part from the front and the back. The very Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says, that you need to cover her from the front and the back. The Chachamim say no. Only a man can be stoned naked. However, a woman is never stoned naked. She's fully, she's covered entirely in clothing. So from that brisa, it seems that the Chachamim are worried that you have to cover a woman when she's getting stoned because we're scared that people are going to look at her and they're going to have these inappropriate thoughts. By Sotah, the Chachamim weren't worried that if she has a nice chest, you could uncover her chest. So Amar Rabba says you've misunderstood the reasoning. The reasoning for the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda is different. What's the reasoning by Sotah that Rabbi Yehuda says that she does not get uncovered if she looks nice, and the Chacham said that she could? But the reasoning for Rabbi Yehuda is that Shema takes and Zakoyas, because what happens if the Sotah was taka innocent? She's going to drink the water and she's going to live. So then the Kohanim that were standing there, or really anyone that's standing there, just uses Pirchei Kahuna as an example because they were always around the Beis Hamikdash. They're going to look at her. They're going to see that she looks very beautiful, and they are going to desire her, and they're going to chase after her after she gets out of the bezdin, right? If she survives. So Rabbi Yehuda says that the reasoning isn't for right now that people are going to have inappropriate thoughts. It's that if they see her and they're going to see that she's very beautiful, and they're going to desire her, and after she's innocent, they're going to go and then chase after her. However, Hassam, in the case of Skila, Rabbi Yehuda is not worried about that because Mistalka. She's dying right now. She's getting stoned. So that no one over there is going to chase after her if they see her naked. Now, and if you're going to be concerned by the case of Sotah or by the case of Skila, that they're going to see this woman naked, right? Rabbi Yehuda says that she's Niskela Saruma. She has covered the front and the back, her private parts, but the rest of her body is uncovered. So if you're going to say that they're going to look at her and they're going to be aroused and want to go do an avera with someone else, so Ha'amar Rava said that Gemiri we have a tradition that the Yetzer Hara only has control over the person and what the person's eyes see. So if the person sees this woman, he's going to desire that woman. It's not going to make him desire a different person, right? So therefore, we don't have that concern over there. Good. So Rabba now explained that Rabbi Yehuda makes sense. That Rabbi Yehuda, by the case of Sotah, he's worried that people are going to chase after her after she finishes the whole process and she leaves innocent. Shenke by Skila, since she's dying now, so we're not concerned, and she could be stoned naked. So Amar Rava, now Rava, he observes that Rabbi Yehuda Kashya, Rabbanan Loi Kashya. We had a question on both of them. Rabbi Yehuda contradicted himself Sotah to Skila. The Rabbanan contradicted themselves also Sotah to Skila. And we only answered Rabbi Yehuda. We didn't answer Rabbanan yet. So Elamar Rava. So Rava says like this. Rabbi Yehuda lekashia kedishnin. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have the question. We answered his stira, like we just said. Rabba said that it has to do with what people are going to think afterwards. Turning Talmud Beis, the Rabbanon, Nami Leikashya, the Rabbanon, on the Rabbanon, we also take away their stira, which by Sotah they say that she is uncovered. By Skila, they say that she is covered. She's always wearing clothing because hacha time of mai. Because what's the reasoning by Sotah that you have to uncover her? Mishum, it says in the pasuk in Yechezkel, we quoted this yesterday, that the women should take musar from this Sotah, that they see that the Sotah is being degraded. They should take a lesson. And if she's going to be innocent, she's going to leave innocent, so she's not going to die. So women are going to see it, and it's not going to be such a big musar because they see that she came to the Beis Hamikdash and it was all good. She left. If she's degraded and they rip her clothing, so then women are going to see that even if they're acting inappropriately, right, secluding themselves with other people, they get this treatment. So they're going to take this musar from the story by seeing her naked. However, by skila, the biggest musar you could have is skila, a person being stoned. She doesn't need to be naked also to add to the musar. People see that this woman's being stoned naked, it's stoned, even if she's not naked, right? The stoning itself is enough to scare people to not do the averis that woman had done. So now why if the Chachamim are just saying that the whole reasoning why we're making the woman naked is in order for Musar to take a lesson from it. So by skila, do both of them. It'll increase the lesson. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu, Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabba, the son of Avua, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, you should love your fellow as yourself. And we learn from there, Rav Nachman learns from that pasuk, that beror loy misa yafa, the pasuk in Parashat Kedoshim next week's marshal, that you need to love each other. This mitzvah goes so far that even when the person is chayav misa, when you have to kill him, you have to give him a more of a pleasant death. Good. So you have to give him a pleasant death, and since it's not pleasant for a woman to be stoned, it's not pleasant for a woman to be stoned. She has to be stoned, the Torah says, but making her get naked is just going to add to the embarrassment. So says Rav Nachman, don't stone her naked. That's what the Chacham say, that you have to stone her when she's clothed. So now, Rav Nachman Tanoi. So maybe Rav Nachman is included in this machlekes Tanoi. Maybe he's involved in this machlekes between Rabbanon and Rabbi Yehuda. That Rabbi Yehuda says you do stone her naked. Rabbanon say you don't. So maybe Rav Nachman is holding like the Rabbanon, not like Rabbi Yehuda. So says the Gemara Loi, the Kulei Alma Islu Rav Nachman. Both opinions, both Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanon, both hold of Rav Nachman's opinion. However, what's the machlekes? They both hold of Rav Nachman's sentiment that you need to give a person a pleasant death, right? Bror Loi Misa Yafa. However, Marsavar Bizyune Odifle Tve Mitzara de Gufe, Marsavar Tzara de Gufe Odifle Mitve Mi Bizyone. The one opinion, the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you bury her, that you stone her naked, holds that what does a person rather? A person would rather have a quicker death, meaning without clothing, because when you have clothing, there's that one more thing that separates your body from the ground. This person, this chayav misa, their body from the ground and from the stones, right? So it can cause a split second longer of anguish, of pain before the person dies. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the main thing is that the person shouldn't be in pain. So when you stone her naked, and that's the fulfilling of because she shouldn't have pain. The Chachamim say no. The Chachamim say that's so insignificant, this extra millisecond of pain, that a woman would rather be stoned when she and have this extra millisecond of pain and go down, with honorably wearing clothing, not embarrassed like that. So they both hold to the sentiment of Brodai Misa Yafa. However, the difference between them is that Rabbi Yehuda says that it's better, the person would rather be stoned naked and not have to deal with the pain, but have that shame. And the Chachamim say that a person would rather not have that shame, but deal with that extra millisecond of pain that they would get from being stoned with clothing on. Good. That is the, and by the way, by like Misa Yafa, we do other things, right? You blindfold the guy before he gets stoned, you make him drunk so that he doesn't feel it, you spin him around, you get him all dizzy so that he feels the least amount of pain. The Torah says you have to stone him, so you got to do the stoning, but you try to make it with the minimal amount of pain as possible because of the pasuk, you have to love your fellow as yourself. Good. Continues the Gemara. If she was wearing black clothing, the Mishnah said that if she was wearing white clothing, so you switch to black clothing to make her more denigrated. So Tana says a brayso that if she looked very good in black clothing, so you dress her in disgusting clothing, whatever makes her look worse. If she had jewelry on or a choker or these rings, so you take it off. So says the Gemara Pshita, obviously you have to do that. The Mishnah doesn't have to say that. The whole thing, we're trying to denigrate her, we're trying to make her look worse. You rip her clothing, so why does the Mishnah even have to mention that you take off her jewelry? For sure we should know you take off her jewelry. we're trying to denigrate her. So Hani Miboya, why do you need to say that you also have to take off the jewelry? So says the Gemara, no, Mao the Tema, you would have thought, if not for the Mishnah saying take off her jewelry, you would have thought that Bahane Isla Bizayin Tvei, that if she's wearing jewelry and she's naked, and she's getting denigrated like this, it's even more embarrassing. Kida Amri Inshi, like people say, that Shaliach Mortil, Visoyim Mesone Kamash Malan. People, there was some expression back in the day. Shaliach, the person who's undressed, Artil, he's naked, Visoyim Mesane, and he's still wearing shoes. Meaning people would make fun if you see a guy who's naked, he's homeless, he doesn't have anything, but he's still wearing shoes. If he's already naked, right? Why is he wearing shoes? Meaning it's another form of embarrassment that he's so bad, but he still has this little, right? The shoes itself just to highlight the fact that he's naked, right? The fact that she's wearing jewelry, it highlights that the rest of her body is not beseder, because usually when a person wears jewelry, they're all dressed nicely. So you might think that her wearing jewelry when she's in this state is going to be even more embarrassing to her. So Kamash Malan, the Mishnah had to tell you that you take off the jewelry. Good. Then we said that the Kohen brings a chevel mitzri, a rope made out of palm net, and he ties it above her breasts. Rab Abba asked Rav Huna chevel mitzri about this palm net rope. Does it is it ma'akiv by Sotah? Is the mitzvah fulfilled? Is the mitzvah of Sotah fulfilled even without this chevel mitzri? Meaning, does it hold back from the fulfillment of the mitzvah? What happens if we don't have a chevel mitzri? Could we use a different rope? Does it have to be dafka this chevel mitzri? So what's the question? Is it mishum shalei yishamtu b'gadei me'ala? Who is the reasoning for the chevel mitzri just so that her clothing shouldn't fall off? And if the reasoning why you bring a rope is so that her clothing shouldn't fall off, so then it shouldn't make a difference what rope you use. If you don't have a chevel mitzri, so bring a whatever, a rubber band, any device that would make sure her clothes don't fall off, completely. The kohen has to rip her clothing until her heart. But besides that, it shouldn't fall off. So is the chevel mitzri just for that, and therefore it's not ma'akev by Sotah. You can use whatever you want. With tziltzul katan nami sagi, and with a little tiny rope, it'll also be good. Dilma, or is it mishum the amar like the master taught? We're going to learn this on daf test tomorrow. That he chager lebitziltzul in the Mishnah. He chager lebitziltzul that she put on a nice belt for him. So therefore, the kohen, as mida keneged mida, we're going to learn the whole sugya, for the rest of the parak almost of mida keneged mida. How Hashem repays measure for measure, that when a person doesn't have error in a certain way, so the punishment for that happens in that same way. So when she was going when she was cheating on her husband, when she was appeasing this adulterer, the noyef, so she put on this nice belt for him. So therefore, we degrade her and we put on this palm net belt around above her breasts, and then ma'akev, then it should hold back, and you need dafka this chevel mitzri. So Amarle says Rav Huna back to Rab Abba, Knisua. We have a brisa that taught us. The brisa over here expounds more on the Mishnah, and it says, the kohen would bring this palm net rope, he ties it above her breasts. Why? In order that her clothing shouldn't fall off. So we see clearly from a brisa that the reasoning for the chevel mitzri is so that her clothing shouldn't fall off. Therefore, the chevel mitzri is not ma'akev, and the woman is able to, and if the kohen doesn't have a chevel mitzri, he could bring any other rope, and it is all good. Good. Then said the Mishnah, any person that wants to watch the Sotah process could come and watch. And then the Mishnah said that any woman is allowed, has permission to come watch. So Hagufa Kasha, there's a stira minei ubei. That Amrat, in the beginning you said anyone who wants to come watch can watch. So Alma Leishna Gavri Leishna Nashi, that men and women could both watch. And then the Mishnah continued and said that any woman's allowed to come watch. Nashim ina nashim loy. So it comes out from there that women are allowed to watch, men aren't allowed to watch. So make up your mind. The beginning of the Mishnah, it seems that men are allowed to come and watch the Sotah process. The end of the Mishnah that says that kol hanoshim mutaris l'reisa, it seems that only women are allowed to. So Amar Abaye said that Tirgima, you have to translate the Mishnah like this. Tirgima anoshim. So you have to say good, that when the Mishnah says that anyone's able to come watch, it was talking about men, that men are allowed to come watch. Then the Mishnah says that women are allowed to come watch, so anyone's allowed to come watch. So Amar Le Rava says back to Abaye, the Mishnah didn't say men, the Mishnah said that whoever wants to watch can watch, and then it said that women can watch. So Amar Rava, so Rava answers that anyone who wants to watch is allowed to come watch. Whether it's men or women. However, the Mishnah says that women can watch because v'nashim chayaves l'reisa. Women who are in the Beis Hamikdash are obligated to go watch the Sotah process. Like it says in the pasuk by Yecheskel that v'nibasru kol anashim. All the women will take musar v'leisa asena kizimaschena, and they will not do these inappropriate actions like this woman the Sotah had done. So it's an obligation for the women that are in the Beis Hamikdash to come watch the process of the Sotah. Good. Moving on to the next Mishnah, towards the bottom of Chesam with Beis. Asnisin says the Mishnah b'midash adam moeded ba. In the measure that a person acts, that's how Hashem acts back towards him. So if a person does an avera, the way that he does an avera, that's the way the Eibishter is going to punish him. And if a person does a mitzvah, the same thing. We're going to learn more about this later in the parak. So it says the Mishnah like this: He kishtas atzma la'avera. The Sotah, she beautified herself. She put on makeup and adornments in order to entice this man to do an avera. So Amakim Nafla, the Eibishter comes, and the Eibishter, when with the story of the Sotah. In the process of the Sotah, he denigrates her. He makes her look disgusting. Higil says Atzma Lavera. She revealed herself in order to do this avera. So Amakim Gila, the Eibishter reveals her body. The Eibishter, the Kayan rips her clothing until her heart, right, in order to denigrate her also. Meaning it's mida keneged mida. The way exactly what the woman did in order to do something wrong, that's the way the Eibishter punishes her. Then it says B'yerech ischila ba'avera tchila. When a woman does the avera with a man, when she cheats on her husband, so the first part of the body that does the avera is the thighs, because when her body gets close to the man's body, so the thighs touch first, and then the bet, and then her womb is involved in the avera afterwards. So therefore, when the woman dies from the Sotah water, so first the thighs collapse, and then the bet and the womb explodes. And then Shar Kol Aguf, the rest of the body, like Palat, doesn't get away, isn't spared from the punishment. And Kitzer, that's the midah keneged midah by a Sotah to how it actually happens. Gemara says the Gemara. Amar Rav Yosef says that Afal Gav the midah betela b'midah loy botel. Even though b'midah the actual way that the Eibishter punishes people, the Dalad Mises Bezdin, which he's going to explain in a second, even though the Dalad Mises Bezdin have been abolished, right? The Bezdin doesn't kill people anymore. However, the bimida, the way that Hashem punishes them, these days, right? When Hashem punishes a person for doing something wrong, even if it's not through the Bezdin, if it's not bidei adam, but bidei shemayim, this tit for tat sort of measurement still exists. The Amar Rav Yosef, like Rav Yosef said, B'chein Tani Rav Chia also taught in a brayso that Miyem Shachar Beis Hamikdash, after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Even though the Sanhedrin was abolished, does not exist anymore. However, the 4 deaths that the Bezdin would give weren't abolished. Obviously, it doesn't mean that the Bezdin administers these 4 deaths. However, says Rav Yosef or Rav Chia like this: Mishin is chayav skila, someone who did an avera that he would need to receive skila, stoning for. So even though the Bezdin is not going to stone him, so how does he get punished? Either he'll fall off a roof and die like that, or a wild animal will come and trample him and he'll die like that. Mishin is chayav streifa. Anyone who was chayav to be burnt, the chiyuv misa of streifa wasn't actual burning. It was that they would take hot lead and pour it down the mechuyav's throat, and the lead would go into his body and burn his insides. So someone who did an avera that requires the streifa punishment, so either he'll fall into a fire, or a snake will bite him, and the snake's venom, is similar to a fire. It burns the person, and he'll die like that. Mishin is chayv hariga, someone who did the avera that would obligate him to get hariga, decapitation, beheaded. So either he'll be given over to the government and the government will kill him with decapitation, or robbers will come and then kill him. Mishin is chayv chanika, someone who is chayv to be choked, that chiyuv misa. So either he'll drown in the ocean, in a river, or he'll die from the sickness called srunchi, which is a sort of it was a sort of ailment that happens in a person's throat that makes him not be able to breathe. And there is this sort of a way that he would die, that he wouldn't be able to breathe, just like choking. And that's the midah keneged midah that happens even these days. We're going to stop over here. The first wide line on Chesam Beis will continue tomorrow with Daf Tes. So yeah, we're obviously the Mishnah is going to continue. The parak is going to continue that just like it is for bad, right? When a person does an avera, so too Hashem punishes them the same measure that they did. So too we're going to learn that also when a person does a mitzvah, when a person does something good, the Eibishter rewards him in the same way that he did the mitzvah, with the same chayas and the same koyach that he did to do the mitzvah. The Eibishter will reward him. Everyone should have a wonderful day, and thank you for tuning in. Yeah.